Welcome to the Motor Show. I'm Ginny Buckley.
And I'm Richard Hammond, and over the next 6 weeks we'll be taking a look at some of the fastest,
the most luxurious
and the most unusual cars available today.
On today's show, Ginny reports on the car with a split personality, the BMW X5. We test 3 of the finest roadsters around. I put 2 white van drivers to the test, and we get £1 million worth of cars all together in one place.
So, you're a car designer. You've just finished your latest masterpiece. You put down your pens, sit back, and wonder whether your new baby is destined for success or failure. Will it be a brief flash in the automotive pan, a mere fashion bauble? Or will it go on to achieve that ultimate, almost mythical goal of classic status? It's the stuff of dreams for car designers, and if I could predict with certainty which cars would go on to become classics, I'd be buying them right now.
Well, we've got together 3 cars that we reckon our children, and quite possibly our grandchildren, will still be lusting after in years to come. The 3 are the Honda S2000, Porsche's Boxster, and the TVR Chimera.
This is the 4-litre Chimera. Works out at around about £30,000. So it has a far, far bigger engine than either the Honda or the Porsche Boxster. And if 4 litres of V8 power isn't enough for you, you can have a 4.5 litre. You can even go up even further, go for the 500, and it's a massive 5 litre. 60 miles an hour comes up in 4.8 seconds. But let's not forget that there's no fancy traction control system here to keep the rear under control in the wet, which makes the TVR very much one for the enthusiast.
Oh no, if it's sophistication that you're after, then look no further than the Porsche Boxster. Not only does it have the right pedigree and the right badge on the bonnet, but it simply oozes class. If only every single car could sound like this. And what about behind the wheel? Well, it certainly doesn't disappoint. It may not have the kick of something like a 911, but then this is 30 grand less, so I've got no complaints. What about the handling? Well, I think it's enough to say that this is the kind of car that just begs to be taken out on the open road. 0 to 60 takes just 6.9 seconds, and it has a top speed of just under 150 miles per hour. And after all, our speed limit is 70. Now, the interior of the Boxster is not like the TVRs. It doesn't feel handcrafted. Instead, this is a German car. You get precision and you get quality. The layout really is superb. And if the chrome trim isn't for you, then don't worry, because there are others you can choose from.
When I first saw the S2000, I thought it one of the best looking cars that Honda have produced. It looks taut and muscular, and that's largely helped by the way the metal appears to have been stretched over the wheels at the front, and those taut lines continue to the rear, where there's a very smart light cluster and overall a very handsome looking car. And the good news is that those good looks are continued through to the interior. Despite it boasting enough onboard technology to launch a satellite before breakfast, it's not as unspirited a drive as you might think. It's certainly not soulless. In fact, it's pretty involving, and you do feel that that technology is there for your benefit as a driver and to maximise the fun you can have. And it works.
But if you were parting with your own pennies for one of these 3, which would you go for? Well, in the end, it's down to personal choice.
And maybe that you prefer the eccentric Brit, or maybe you favour the tautly engineered Teutonic Porsche. If technological innovation is your thing, then it has to be the Honda.
Richard, I've really had you down as an eccentric Brit, you know.
But I want the Porsche.
Oh, come on, I'll give you a lift.
Thank you. Which car would you really love to have a go in? You may have sat around and daydreamed about that one before, but do it again. What would it be? Is it a car you just want to have a drive of, or a car you really want to own, a real dream car? And what would you do if some TV types called you up out of the blue and invited you in to report on 2 of the finest fiery muscle coupes on the market today? These 2. Well, that's exactly what we've done on the Motor Show. But first, we had to decide which discerning group of road users could best represent our own driving sensibilities and report back on cars that they wouldn't ordinarily be driving. Well, who better than that courteous and noble group of gentlemen of the road, the white van user?
Meet Brian Walshaw. He's a courier, 41 years young and married with 4 daughters. He fancies himself as a bit of an amateur filmmaker and owns a Peugeot 405. This is Carl Harrison. He's single, aged 26, and when he's not out working in his van, he's out creating havoc in his RS Turbo.
Our first car to be tested here is the BMW M Coupe, and in our opinion the M stands for Maverick. It's a kind of cross between a Z3 Roadster and an Austin Allegro estate, but it is reminiscent of the muscle coupes of the 70s. Under the bonnet there lurks a menacing 24-valve 3.2-litre engine from Entec, previously only found under the bonnet of the revered M3. If figures are your thing, then it has a top speed of 155 miles an hour, and it'll gallop happily from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 5.5 seconds. And you get all of this for a mere £40,000. Up against it is a car with incredible style and passion. Well, in our opinion anyway. There have been some worthy Audis down the years, but the TT Coupe really is something special. Its stunning looks are a combination of ingenious styling devices inside and out. It has a 225 brake horsepower engine, a 6-speed gearbox mated to Audi's amazing Quattro 4-wheel drive system, which means it's powerful, nimble and agile.
First up is Brian Walsham. What are his initial impressions?
It feels good. It feels good. Yeah. The steering's positive, the seating's comfortable. The creature comforts could be a little better. There's a nice stereo here, but there's no CD on it. My head is touching the roof. I'm 6'1", and the headroom is not very restricting, but now and again you do touch the roof there.
Brian can just about cope without a CD in the M Coupe. I wonder if he's got all the creature comforts he finds in his van. Anyway, Carl, is the pleasure of the TT limited to the eye, or is this a car that will delight the enthusiast as well?
The only thing that really put me off was just the general look of it on the outside. It just looked like a Beetle. Just really big, bulky, and just like a bubble on top of it. Once you actually get inside and start it up and hear engine, it just totally changes your opinion. It doesn't really matter what it looks like, how it drives. The speed of this car actually, to me, it goes quicker than what it actually looks. It just wants to eat up the road. It's just built for speed, I think. But I think it's a perfect ride. It's good all-round balance, brakes are lovely and sharp. Suspension is just about right for road conditions.
And so after a hard morning spent road testing, it's time to relax, to gather your thoughts and prepare your impressions on the cars you've driven so far. But most importantly of all, to swap cars ready for the next session.
Back on the road, this time in the Audi TT, Brian is working up a head of steam. Let's see how he's getting on.
I'm not really over keen on this alloy futuristic theme that the interior of the car has. It just doesn't do anything for me. The acceleration of the Audi is just as impressive, but smoother. The BMW is very throaty. You know it's there, you get an adrenaline rush. I think the BMW would appeal more to the younger end of the market. Once you get a little bit older and a little bit wiser, and you're not too bothered about thrashing the pants off everything, this is a very nice car to drive.
So what about our dashing man about town, Carl? How's he doing in that BMW M Coupe?
First impressions, it looks like a Batmobile. That's my honest opinion. Just the smaller version. Got excellent all-round vision. I'd go out tomorrow and buy one of these.
Well, our two van drivers, Carl and Brian, have had the cars all day. There's been a lot of grinning going on as the day progressed. You've had time to come to your conclusions. So, Brian, you first. You started with the BMW. Which one has ended up as your favourite?
It has to be the Audi.
You want the Audi, why?
It's just tipped the scales. I love the interior of the BMW. I want the Audi with the interior of the BMW.
Carl, you actually started in the Audi. Which one has ended up your favourite?
I went for the Batmobile.
You want the Batmobile. Why? What's done it for you?
Just for the BMW name tag, the look of the car, the speed, the growly engine. Beautiful.
Well, look, it's been a long day. A lot of fun, I know, but surprisingly tiring. You both deserve a bit of a treat, so I've got some keys here for you, which you're welcome to. They're for your vans, boys. So you can go and drive your vans. Meanwhile, I've got one of these.
The first car produced could be bought for just $250. That's about 180 quid. A big investment even then though for most people. But things have certainly changed today. And to highlight this was the announcement from Mercedes that their SLR will start at the staggering price of around £175,000. These days, becoming a millionaire isn't such an impossible dream. A £1 stake can make you one, and of course you can even win $1 million on the telly. So what if it really happened to you? What would you spend it on? What car would you choose to drive if you became a member of the most elite club there is?
Which one? I reckon you're going to be looking at which cars to buy, unless you fancy just a couple of McLaren F1s or perhaps the wheel arch of a Formula 1 car. Of course, you're going to need one for every single occasion, but with over £1 million to spend, I guess this is going to be a very impressive shopping list.
Top of anybody's list would have to be the Aston Martin DB7. It may well have been shunned by James Bond in favour of the BMW, but you can't fail to class it as a supercar. And as you'd imagine, it carries a supercar price tag. This is the DB7 Vantage, and it'll set you back £92,500.
Let's add £40,000 to our grand total and buy this, the Cadillac Seville. It's American, big and very thirsty. It has a thundering great V8 engine that churns out about 305 brake horsepower. And whilst it is a tad lardy to be called a supercar, it will romp happily from 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds. Not bad for something the size of a bungalow.
Chariot of the Gods or Tart's Boudoir. Either way, it costs more than 2 streets of houses, and entire herds of cattle sacrifice themselves to line the plush interior. £250,000 is a lot of money for anything, let alone a car.
You don't get much more oomph than with the AC Superblower. Now, believe it or not, this car is based on the 1960s Shelby Cobra. There are loads of Cobra replicas, but this is the real thing. Gorgeous, it certainly is. Practical, it isn't. You get no fancy extras, just 2 seats, not even a handle on the outside to ruin the line of the door. What you do get, though, is the pleasure of hearing exactly what you've paid for every time you turn the engine on. Oh, and the price tag, £75,000.
The S8 is a real super saloon. Despite its enormous size, the S8 has superb handling and never looks remotely flustered when parked next to some of Jaguar's finest.
But you're a millionaire, so shell out another 66 grand and buy one of these, an Overfinch Range Rover, because those little luxuries and frills are essential, aren't they? This one has a Chevrolet V8 that'll drag all 2 tons of this monster from 0 to 60 in a shade over 7 seconds, if you can handle it.
When Honda first produced the NSX, they made sure that it was as easy to drive as a Honda Civic. And that's where the similarities stopped. It has a 4.6-litre VTEC engine that can catapult you to 170 miles per hour. There's just one problem. The price tag, it's almost £70,000. And some people that don't know this car's terrific pedigree may prefer to have a Porsche badge on the front of their vehicle.
The Porsche 911, a true classic with a lengthy pedigree. The latest evolution of a car that shares its roots with the Beetle will set you back the best part of £50, £60 or even £70,000. And if you really must have that wind in your hair feeling, you can always shell out a few extra grand on the glamorous cabriolet.
Another 63,000 and you can have one of these, a Maserati 3200 GT. Its styling harks back to the beautiful Grand Tourers of the 1960s, and it has the very distinctive Maserati badge on the front. But if it's real sports car style you want, then take a look inside. The classic dials, the beautiful leather, and even this unusual gear shift all prepare you for how driving this car will make you feel. A top speed of 160 miles an hour. And if you really must dash, then 60 miles an hour comes up in a very respectable 5.7 seconds.
Everyone knows that it was Bond's latest steed, but at a shade over £75,000, you might be justified in expecting a dinner jacket and missile-firing watch into the bargain. And with that mighty V8 bellowing away in front of you, it'll certainly leave the baddies behind every time.
Which brings us to the Venturi Atlantique, which at just under 60 grand isn't exactly cheap either. Now, this is France's fastest production car with speeds of up to 170 miles per hour. 0 to 60 takes under 5 seconds. Not bad for a car that's half the price of a Ferrari.
At just over 40 grand, it's not cheap, but with its 3.2-litre straight-six engine and blistering handling, you can probably also say goodbye to your licence.
That leaves us then with the Toyota Yaris.
Reality check.
Well, very cheap to run, £7,500.
50 miles to the gallon.
Group 2 insurance.
Seats 4 people.
And it's just enough, Richard, to get us to the nearest lottery outlet. Come on.
Good idea. Can you lend us a quid, Ginny?
Richard.
Coming up after the break, I find out if Feng Shui has got anything at all to do with motoring, and Ginny reports on the all-new BMW X5. The Oriental art of Feng Shui has gripped the Western world, despite it offering no opportunities for violence. It's all about combining elements and objects around you in order to bring inner peace and tranquility, colours, energy and movement. It's all relative to keeping out bad luck and keeping in good luck, which is good news if you're spending £10 million on a new office headquarters in New York. That's the kind of thing that you want, which is why even hard-nosed business types have taken Feng Shui to heart. So you've attacked your house with Feng Shui to bring peace and harmony, but where else do we spend huge chunks of our time? In the car. So we've picked 3 modern cars to assess in terms of their Feng Shui. First of all, we have the rounded, friendly Beetle, which does look rather sort of Buddha-esque and relaxed. Then there's the sharp-edged Ford Focus, a modern car for modern city life. And finally, the Volvo V70, solid, stately and safe for the family. All we need now is a real expert in Feng Shui, a black belt if there is such a thing, which is where Peter Stott comes in. So, Peter, can we really apply the principles of Feng Shui to cars?
Absolutely, Richard. The 5 elements that we use in Feng Shui are amply demonstrated in the cars that we've got here today. I mean, if we look at this Volvo, you'll see that it's a very square, boxy shape, which is typical of the earth element in Feng Shui. And we have a squared off bonnet at the front. The lights and the grille are all in this sort of square and squat shape. And it's a typical of the earth quality, which is solid, dependable and stable.
What about the Ford Focus?
The Ford Focus is quite different, and you can see immediately that we've got away from that boxy shape and we now have many more points and sharp angles, which is typical of the fire element.
Now, I'm no expert, but yes, this is a pointy car, and in Feng Shui terms, the Beetle is a very round car.
It really is, isn't it? I mean, look at this round shape. It's typical of the metal element. There's hardly a straight line on it anywhere, from the headlamps to the wheel arches to the whole shape of it. It's so typical of the metal element.
Of course, there is a practical side to Feng Shui. Whilst you don't get to hit anyone or break bits of masonry with your head, you do get to move stuff around. It's not about sitting back and accepting what you get. The idea is that once you've assessed an area, you can introduce to it those elements needed to bring that sought-after peace and harmony. Whether you choose to believe in it or not, Feng Shui does have some useful lessons for us all as motorists. For instance, it is good Feng Shui to keep the windows of your car clean. It's a Feng Shui metaphor for keeping clear our vision of life and the future. And it will also help you avoid bumping into things, which is useful in day-to-day life. A Feng Shui metaphor for losing money is a leak of any sort, and therefore it is good Feng Shui to keep your car properly maintained. And it will also help you avoid breaking down in the middle of nowhere. And should you be in the fortunate position of buying a new car, when you're scanning down the options list, remember to tell your dealer that it is good Feng Shui to opt for wood and leather, bringing a touch of nature to the interior of your car. Who knows, if this catches on, we could see Feng Shui as an option in itself. Or even we could see a special edition, the Nissan Micra Feng Shui. I like that.
Cars tend to fit neatly into their own nice little categories. You know the kind of thing. Compact city cars, sensible saloons, ravishing little roadsters. And that being the case, it stands to reason if you're a high-powered executive city type, you drive a large luxury saloon. But what if, when the weekend comes, you fancy getting to grips with nature and sampling a taste of the great outdoors? What, you? Well, I know it's not usually my style, but if I had the kind of vehicle that offered me the opportunity to do both, I might just try it. So, what's an X5? Well, the name gives it away. Think about it. The 5 from BMW Super Saloon, the 5 Series, and the X from Cross Country. Put the two together and hey presto. The interior, as you'd expect from a BMW, is extremely civilised. The instrument panel doesn't favour the driver, so that one's passenger can take care of the stereo, the air conditioning and that satellite navigation thing. Out on the road, well, it might be a large, powerful vehicle, but it's surprisingly easy to drive. The extra height means you get a great view of everything around you. But it doesn't come with any of the rock and roll that you normally associate with off-roaders. 0 to 60 takes just 7.5 seconds, and it easily cruises to a top speed of 128 miles per hour. It probably won't surprise you to discover that 95% of people who own off-roaders never take them off-road. Let's be serious. When the X5 goes on sale at the end of the year, it's going to cost around £47,000. If you'd spent that much money, would you want it to get bumped and bashed and covered in mud? I don't think so. Well, the good thing is, though, that this X5 isn't mine. And remember, I'm rather keen on getting to grips with nature. Off-road, the X5 proves its worth. The permanent four-wheel drive system directs most of the power to the rear wheels, so lack of grip and wheel spin is reduced to a minimum. Oh no, look how dirty it is. Why would you want to do that? You see, what buyers want is a vehicle that looks the part and has the off-road capabilities. Heaven forbid we should actually want to try it. Well, you can speak for yourself, because some of us will relish the challenge of discovering what the X5 is really capable of. You should try it sometime. Oh well, that's the beauty of it, I suppose. Whether you're looking for on-road performance or you want to have fun on an off-road course, then the X5 will suit you down to the ground.
Next week on The Motor Show, I report on the Audi TT Roadster, Ginny puts some driving instructors to the test, I start my rally training, and we test 3 of the best off-roaders.